All right, Sister Lake, this is Wendy Tacey, and we had a meeting set up for tonight, but I just texted everybody, and Monique says she had an emergency come up, and so she can't come. And Whitney realized that she changed her nights to Wednesday nights, and so because of some work problems. And so I'm the only one here tonight. And so I guess I will just, I'm not sure what to do, but I guess I'll just talk for 8 minutes about what I enjoyed from this week's stuff, and then I'll send you the recording. And then next week, if nobody else is showing up, I'll probably change the night that I have my class. So one of the questions was, if you were on the fence when it comes to same-sex marriage, how would you feel after listening to each speech? I was really surprised by the first gentleman who got up who was in opposition to it, and all he used was God's word and the scriptures. And I was surprised at how I was not convinced at all that that's what needed to happen. And then the second young man stood up, and he was for it, and his argument was much more persuasive to me because he did use the story like we've talked about this week. And I found that was that did draw me in a lot more than the other gentleman had. And so honestly, if I had been on the fence, I probably would have gone with the second guy if I didn't have strong feelings about same-sex marriage. I feel like the first one was really not very effective at all. And you could see that the people in the room with the second gentleman, if you watch the people in the background, you can see how they were like, yeah, and he was hitting points that struck home with them, and they were feeling that storyteller kind of trance thing, and that was interesting to me. Let's see. In the article for the federal government hasn't improved education after trying for 50 years, and my struggle with porn taught me to hate my body articles. The storytelling in those drew me in, and like a lot of times you don't think about girls and dealing with porn, and so that was kind of really a different way to come at it, because usually you're thinking of men and not girls and things like that. And so that storyline kind of drew me in and was very effective, and how she discussed that. And so that kind of made me think about my blog that I have to write this week. But the federal government, the one about the education, there are a lot of statistics in there that help to clarify and help you to see how education has fallen. And I'm a teacher, and I do see that. I honestly, sometimes I wonder if leaving No Child Behind is like one of the worst things we could have ever done, because it seems like we push kids through the system who are not ready. And I've seen kids kind of fall through the cracks, even though we're supposedly leaving no one behind. Sometimes I don't think that's a good choice, especially for those who are might have learning disabilities and things like that. And it's just like they're getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and there is no learning taking place. And if you look at those statistics with the how much it shows those seniors are not hitting all of the marks that they should be, it shows after 50 years that things have stagnated and gotten worse. And I see that. I have students, because now I'm a tutor, and I have a lot of students who come to me for tutoring with math in my county. Our county changed math programs, and the teachers who they have teaching do not seem to care, because I have students who are like straight A students, and they're coming to me and they're like, I just don't get it. My teacher doesn't teach it. She throws things up on the board, and I just don't understand, and I'm worried I'm not going to pass my class. And they were straight A students before, and they've tried to figure out, they don't have books to look at. They don't have, they get worksheets once in a while. And so it just seems like for trying to improve education, it has fallen down quite a bit. And I've had a lot of students who I tutor they have stopped going to public school and are starting to do homeschooling because of that reason. And so that's been kind of interesting to me. And so for education analysis, after reading that, how do you feel after reading that article? I agree with that article. I feel strongly that yes, it's families need to be empowered in education, and especially with all the things that we've been reading about the sex education classes and things like that. If I had kids in school right now, that I would be horrified. I would not be allowing my child to participate in those sex education classes, because those are things that I would not want my child exposed to. And I would discuss the whole curriculum with them, but from my viewpoint, because I'm sure their friends would be discussing what they were studying in the sex education classes, and so they would need to be aware of that and know how to respond when those things would come up, I'm sure, in their day-to-day conversations, because if the majority of the kids are being taught that, I would pretty much guarantee they're probably going to be talking about it at lunchtime or some other place. And so, yeah, I would definitely have worked on that one with my child for sure. Let's see. What did you learn from the articles that you read in preparation for the video? So I think those were the articles about the A-list Hollywood director endorsing incest. And to me, that I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because I've had those kind of statistics in other classes I'm taking right now, that one, as much as I would have thought it would have made me go, oh my gosh, it really didn't, because it was just like that line that says, if you're not having kids, who cares? Love who you want. I mean, that is what society seems to be saying today. Love who you want. It doesn't matter. Families aren't important. Just go with whoever you want to, be with, and don't worry about it. And so that, to me, him saying that, I thought that was probably pretty apropos, and I was not surprised. And I don't know if it's because it was a Hollywood director that I kind of expected that, if that's what did it for me. But I really liked how Marie, I think it was Marie, Marsha's, when she said, honestly, if you were going to combat that you go back to the real issue is not about marriage or not about any of that stuff. It's about the child that could be who is going to suffer in that situation, if that's suffering. And that's who you go back to, and that's who you advocate for, and that's what's the most important thing in that situation. And so I thought that was a great way to combat the things that were happening. What else? Oh, and also that for that father-daughter dance, that really that seemed pretty, it's just a father-daughter dance, it's not that big a deal, but as she explained it and went into greater detail about how it was a violation of other things, and that really it was going to be quite harmful, I had never even considered that would be an issue. And I found it really interesting for China's Bare Branches article, that they pledged to keep its one-child policy in place until the year 2050. It made me wonder, do they not see the harm that's going to be done, that they will have all these men? It was interesting to read what the researchers were saying would be common characteristics of these men without women to help, I don't know if the word is tame, but kind of like tame them. That if they don't have guidance or direction in putting those things that Heavenly Father has put into place for them, the things that they would end up doing, like living and socializing with other ones and creating that distinctive bachelor subculture, they would probably be belonging to the predominantly the lowest socioeconomic class, which kind of surprised me because you would think, well, they don't have all these responsibilities and things, so they would have more money, but I guess maybe they would spend more money, and so that would maybe affect things, or they wouldn't be as driven to take care of, you know, someone else. They're not being driven to take care of anyone else, and it's only themselves, and so it doesn't matter to them. I thought that was kind of interesting. And that they would most be underemployed or unemployed. And I thought that was interesting too, because you would think, especially because it's China and the male role that is played there, I found that surprising. I would not have thought that. I would have thought that they would have been very driven just like everybody else. But so that was kind of an interesting thing to me. And I was hoping somebody else was going to be on because I would like to have heard their what they thought about that. So I think I have now spoken long enough. So I'm going to post this, Sister Lake, and hopefully next week I'll have more people on with me. And if not, I'm probably going to see if I can't join another group so that I can have some interaction, because it's much more interesting when I have interaction and I get to hear somebody else's viewpoint. Thanks.